Be'ezras Hashem. Be'ezras Hashem. Today's daf is Masechta Bava Basra, daf Kuf Ayin Vav, 176. And this is the last daf in Masechta Bava Basra. So we are starting from just after the Mishnah of Kuf Ayin Hey Amid Beis. Okay, so here we go. The Gemara begins. We know that when you borrow money, you have to pay it back, of course, but there's an automatic lien on your property. That means that if you sell any of your properties, the lender could come and repossess that property. So, and that even if it's not written in the document, in the loan documents, we consider it a mistake by the scribe, and it's an automatic right to the lender to repossess the property. So the concept of having a lien on your properties when you take a loan, so let us, we want to know, is that midaraisa midarabona? So Amma Ula said, no matter how you take a loan, with a document or just a verbal loan, you collect from, the lender could collect for and repossess property that you have. My tama, what's the reason? Shibuda da'iraisa. The fact that you can repossess a property is minat Torah. They said that once you take a loan, your properties are your co-signer for that. Then why did Chazal say milval peh? When you take a verbal loan, you can only collect from freestanding possessions. You can't go after somebody who bought a property from your borrower. And says the Gemara, why is that? Because we don't want the person who innocently bought the property from your borrower, now he's going to have that taken away from him, foreclosed on him. He didn't do anything wrong. So if that's the case, if you're always concerned about the purchaser, milva b'shtar nami, someone who borrowed using a loan document, should also not have his properties repossessed when he buys a property from the borrower. Just because if the borrower took a loan document, we say that the lender could repossess the property that was purchased. And says the Gemara, the person that bought the property, he caused his own loss, because it's very easy for a person to investigate that if you buy a property from somebody. Hi, Sheldon. We just began. We're up to Rabba Omar. So okay. It's very easy for a person to investigate prior to buying a property to see if the person that you're buying the property has an outstanding loan. You do some title research, and if he does have an outstanding loan, you're taking a risk. So that is the opinion of Ula. Ula said, "Minat Torah, goyvim that shibudu dairaisa." When you take a loan, there's an automatic lien on your properties in the Torah. The Torah says so. Rabba Omar, Rabba says, Dvar Torah, echad milva b'shtav, echad milva peh, eina goyve el menechosim b'nei. Hi, Louis, we're on Kufayin Hey Amid Beis, Rabba Omar. That Minat Torah, Rabba says that no matter how you take the loan, using a document or you take it a verbal loan, you're not goiva. You don't collect only from the lender could only collect from freestanding property, not property that was sold away. My timer, because you hold shibudo live deraisa, to put a lien on your property, that is not a Torah idea. So then why did they chachamim make it up? My time omru mil b'shtar goivim nechasim mishabodam. Why did the chachamim say that if you borrow using a loan document, then the lender has a right to foreclose on property that was even sold after the loan? And says the Gemara, to not close the capital markets, because if in order for the capital markets to run properly so that people can get loans, we have to give the lender certain rights that he can foreclose on a property that was sold after the loan. So the idea, this concept of a lien on a property is Drabanan invention, according to Rabbah. Says the Gemara, then why didn't the Chachamim make this invention work even if you took a verbal loan? Why by a verbal loan you say there is no lien on a property? And since the Gemara Hasam less they call it, because there's no sound. It's not in the news that you took a loan. If you take a verbal loan, it's between you and your your lender. They're really usually not witnesses that have spread the news. But if you had a whole scribe write it up, so then it's well known. So if there's a verbal loan outstanding, you can't fault the purchaser of the property again. If he bought the property to give to now have it taken away because his seller actually took a loan. So therefore, you can't fault that buyer that he bought this property, and therefore, if the seller took a verbal loan, the buyer will not have his property foreclosed on it. Says the Gemara. Did Rabbah say that idea? Did Rabbah say the idea that the concept of having a lien on a property is not a Torah idea? Rabbah said that a bechor, right, a bechor whose father died, and then his father had an outstanding. His father was a lender, and after the father died, gavu karka, they foreclose on property that was from a borrower that borrowed money from their father. So then the bechor will take pishnayim. Yesh loy gavu mois, but if they collected just money for an outstanding loan that was owed to their father, ein loy, then the bechor does not take pishnayim. Why does the bechor take pishnayim when they foreclose on property? It's because it must be that Rabbah holds that a lien on a property is almost like a lien on a property is a deraisa concept, and it's almost like the father had this property in his possession when he died. So we see that Rabbah himself holds the concept of a lien on a property is a deraisa invention. So you're going to answer this question. That okay, I'll turn it around. Rabbah said Shabuda is deraisa. Ula says Shabuda is not deraisa. But Ula also says that the concept of a lien is a Torah idea, because Ula said the Bar Torah Bal Choiv Dina Biziburis Mina Torah. A lender should be able to foreclose on ziburis karka, the lowest form of land. But we see the concept that if a lender has rights and could foreclose on property, so Ula holds shibudas deraisa, Rabbah cannot hold shibuda deraisa. Answers the Gemara, you're right. Rabbah in this case, Govu Karka Yeshlai, he was saying the opinion of somebody else, the opinion of the people of Marav. But he himself does not hold of Shibuda Da'iraisa. So ends this topic. The Machlaikis in the Gemara, the concept of a lien on a property when you take a loan, is it a Torah concept or a Drabanan concept? New Gemara, Rav Shmuel da Amri Tabayu. Milvat peh, if you take a verbal loan, so as long as you take a verbal loan, you have to pay it back, of course. But if the borrower dies or he sold assets, the lender cannot collect from the orphans and not from items that was sold. The concept of a lien is not a Torah thing, and therefore milva al peh, if it's a verbal loan, certainly you don't collect from Yorshim. You only collect possessions that the person has in hand. If he's dead, he can't pay you back. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, milva peh, someone takes a verbal loan. If he dies, goyvim in a Yorshim. The Yorshim have to pay that loan. Ubeimin al kuchas, even if items were purchased outside after the loan, the lender could foreclose on that loan, even if it was a verbal loan. My tama, because Rabbi Yochanan and Shimon ben Lakish hold shibud raisa. The concept of a lien is min Torah, so they're the most strictest. Meisvei. So the Gemara asks a question against Rabbi Yochanan against Rav and Shmuel. Someone digs a pit in Rishus Rabbim, so he's doing a bad thing. He's digging a pit on the main street in the Rishus Rabbim. V'nafa olav shar, and then an ox falls on him while he's digging the pit. For haraga, and it killed the digger. Potter, so the ox is not liable because the guy digging the pit is doing something wrong. If the ox died, if the ox died, Yorshe habal habar, the inheritors of the owner of the one that was digging the pit, chayavon l'sham to make sure they have to pay the value of the shar to its owner. So this is a kasha against Rav and Shmuel. Rav and Shmuel said that if someone takes a verbal loan, it doesn't transfer that obligation to the inheritors. And here, a guy who's digging a pit and was chayiv in damages while he was alive, that's like a verbal loan. And therefore, the Yarshim should not have to pay. This Brisa says that the Yarshim do require to pay. So this is a question against Rav and Shmuel. That is talking about that they actually went to court. And they went to court, and the court paskin that the digger of the pit is chayav to pay. So it's like he has a star type of obligation, and that transfers into the Yarshim. Says the Gemara, how could you say that the Bryce is talking about they actually went to court? It says that he got killed. It doesn't mean he got killed. He became wounded and mortally wounded, but he actually they forced him to go to court while he was still alive. The Brisa explains this Brisa, which says that he actually died and was buried in the pit. So obviously he wasn't Omad Bedin. The court case didn't happen. And says the Gemara Hasim over there, the Yasra Dayana Apuma de Beir talking about the Dayanim was sitting at the edge of the pit and they made him liable, and then he died. So when they made him liable, if the Bezdin, it's a strange case, but the Bezdin was Siyum in the pit, dying, they made the paskin that he was chayiv to pay for the shar, and then he died. So then it was like a loan obligation that he took in a document, because the Bezdin paskin that he has to pay. Therefore, that's why the Yorshei Habal have to pay. The Yorshei of the pit digger has to pay. Amar Papa said, we go to Kuf Ayin Vav and Aleph, the last daf. Amar Papa said, Hilchas the halacha is in the middle ground. Milval peh, if it's a verbal loan, goyva ben a yarshiv, the ain't a goyva ben al kukas. A verbal loan, you don't have to, and we know for a fact, for example, we know for a fact that he didn't pay it. A verbal loan, guy died, and we know for a fact he didn't pay it. Pay the loan, so then the Yorshim have to pay that loan. The ain't a government lekuchas, but lekuchas property that was sold is not responsible for that verbal loan. Government a Yorshim, you collect from the inheritors. The lender has a right to collect, because this idea is kadesh leitil delos b'fnei loivin. We don't want to close the door for borrowers. If we always say that when you lend somebody money verbally, right, and then he dies, his children don't have to pay you back, nobody's going to want to lend money, because there's always a risk that the borrower is going to die. So in order not to close off the capital markets, they said that the goyvim in a yarshim, you collect from the inheritors. Ain't a goyvim in a lekuchis, but you don't. If he sold items, since it was a verbal loan, we saw this idea before. The less like call, you can't fault the buyer of that property because he didn't know that the seller took out a loan, because it was only a verbal loan, private loan. Next, new Gemara. If a guy takes out a document, a lender takes out a document where it's a personal IOU from the borrower. So the Brisa says, so they asked the Rabba from Bar Noson asked the question of Rabbi Yochanan. What's the din if Bezdin authenticated the guy's signature? In other words, Bezdin said, this is really this guy, this borrower's handwriting, that he's writing that he owes this person money. Does that automatically turn this document into a loan document? And therefore, even though there's no Adam on it, but it's the borrower himself that's wrote out the whole document in his own handwriting. So maybe that will turn it into a loan document, which you could be goiva from the Yarshim and Lekuchais. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan said, if even though it was only Bezdin that authenticated the signature of the borrower and the writing of the borrower, it's still a verbal document. It's a verbal loan, and you can only collect from B'nei Chayrim. So Rabbi Bacham asked the question, there are 3 gittin that really we say you shouldn't are disqualified gettin. If someone gives us a type of get, we say that's not a kosher get. But if the woman got married based on this kosher get, based on this get, we'll not say that her children are mamzerim. She's still b'di'eved divorced. Ve'elehein. If you have a get that's written in the husband's personal handwriting, but there's no witnesses, so in that case, we will, according to this opinion, l'chatchila you're supposed to have edim on the get. But if you don't have edim, then we'll say edim masira karsi, which means that edim that see that the husband gave this get to the wife, that will solidify the get. B'di'evid. Yeshol of edim be'maisman. If it has edim, but there's no date on the get, that's also no good. Yesh b'isman. If it has a date, is only one aid, that's also no good. Here are three examples of three gets that are disqualified. You should really write another get. But she ran and got married to somebody else. Avlad kosher, the Vlad's kosher because we'll say Eidim Mesira Karsi, because they're at the end of the day, when you give over the get, there's always two Eidim watching. Rabbi Lazar, even lechatchila, it's a good get, because Rabbi Lazar is of the opinion that we don't really even need Eidei Chasima, people to sign on the get. As long as you give over the get in front of Eidim, even though there is no Eidim inside the get, kosher, it's a kosher get. Now, the goyvem and the if it was a loan, we say that you can collect, and that the guy has an IOU, then it's a real document. If the Adam saw a guy write say, I owe you $1,000, and then he gives it over to the lender, so that is like a loan document you can collect from lien properties. You put a lien on all his properties. Wait a second, it's written in his own handwriting, and there's no Adam. And here the Mishnah seems to say that it becomes automatically like a loan document which could collect from Yorshim and Nechasim and Shabbatim. Answers the Gemara. Here, when he wrote out that IOU, and as soon as he gave it over in front of witnesses, he obligated himself and put on the line all his properties. Here, in the other case that we were talking about, he wrote, I owe you $1,000, but there was no witnesses that he gave this IOU to his lender. It's only that lender came to Bezdin and says, can you verify the signatures and authenticate the signatures? And they put a stamp on it. So just because they put a stamp on it, it still doesn't remove it from being a verbal loan, a milval peh. And therefore, that's why in that case, Rabbi Yochanan Paskin, in that case, even if the Bezdin authenticated, you could only collect from freestanding property. Says the Gemara, you have a loan document, you have two witnesses signed. The Mishnah says if an Arev writes his name, a guarantor writes his name right after the witness is signed. So it's obvious that the loan would have happened even if you didn't have a guarantor. So Rav said, if the guarantor signs before the signatures, then you can collect from lien properties. But if he signed, the guarantor put his name on the bottom of the document after the witnesses signed, then you can only collect from freestanding property, because it's like a halfway commitment of the guarantor. But Zimnan Amara, but sometimes says Raz, I feel even if Rob says that even if you put your name before the document was signed, so there's a document, then you have a co-signer says, I guarantee this loan, then the witness is signed. Rav said that even if we signed before that, it could only be collected from freestanding property. So Pasha de Rav. This is a stira, a contradiction, Rav. Previously, Rav says if the co-signer signs before this loan was signed, then you collect from lien properties. And here Rav says, even if they signed before the loan was signed by the witnesses, you can only collect from the Chasim b'nei Chayrin. And so Gemara like kasha, it's not a difficult. Ha the Chasim be pliny arev, ha the Chasim le u pliny arev. When you write a loan document and you write so and so is the guarantor, that doesn't mean that he's guaranteeing the loan. He's not. Maybe he just wrote his name there, but he's not agreeing to everything that's said previously, or he's not the cause of the loan. Therefore, in that case, he's not a full Arif. You only collect from B'nai Chayrim from him. The cost of Uplaini Arif, but if you write the extra Vav and you say, here's a loan, Ruvain lending Shimon, and so is the Arif, then he's a full-fledged Arif, and then he's like responsible, even his properties are lean towards that loan. Rabbi Yochanan said, no matter what the Arif signs, it seems that Rabbi Yochanan held that even if you write, I am the guarantor, Reuven's lending Shimon money, and Pliny is the guarantor, still the guarantor is only responsible from his freestanding assets, not his properties, not his properties that he sells. Masav Rava, so Rava says, ask the question, wait a second. The Brisa says that Adam that signed on a get, But a get has a whole get, and then at the bottom of the get, it says, by the way, send regards to so-and-so. So the Adam sign on that, that's a possible get, because could be the Adam are signing on are going on the send regards to so-and-so. They're not going on what's written on top of that, which is the get itself. The Amar Abavol, the Didim Mefarshalem Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan explained this, Brisa, She'ilu Pasul. If it just says, send regards to so-and-so, then the get is Pasul. She'iloi, but if they say, and send regards to so-and-so, kosher, because then it's a kosher get, because then the Edom are signing not only on the saying regards, but they're saying and on what's written before that, which is the get itself. So we see that Rabbi Yochanan holds of this concept that when you write the word and, you actually are connected to what's written previously. So how could Rabbi Yochanan say over here, when you write and so is the Arev, he's not considered as if he's really responsible like the borrower himself? Answers the Gemara, Hachanami, you're right. The cost of plenty Arev. Rabbi Yochanan would technically agree that that if he says and plenty Arev, you get mechasim mishabadim. When did Rabbi Yochanan say you get menei chayrin is only if you write plenty Arev. He writes, so-and-so is the guarantor, but you didn't write the and. That's what Rav said. So where's Rabbi Yochanan and Rav arguing? Says the Gemara, Ema, who says they're arguing? Let's read it as so said Rabbi Yochanan. Now the Gemara says, there's a story that came in front of Rabbi Shmuel. The Mishnah said a story about Rabbi Shmuel, that Adim that was signed, or that signed after the document was signed, he said that the Arab is still responsible, even though he's signing after the document was signed. Banana said, no, this loan would have taken place even without the guarantor, so the Arab is totally not responsible. So, and Rabbanana said a case that, let's say you see somebody's choking somebody in the street because he owes him money. And you say, stop, don't choke him anymore, I'll pay his loan. So obviously, you only said that so that he should stop choking him. You're not really technically obligated. That's what Bananas used to explain Rabbi Shmuel. So first the Gemara says, even though Rabbi Shmuel paid a nice compliment to Bananas about his argument, the halacha is like Rabbi Shmuel, that once you write that you're an Arev, or you say that you're an Arev, you're somewhat responsible, at least to pay with B'nai Chayrim. Would Rabbi Shmuel agree that in case of the choke hold, and the guy says, stop him, I'll pay his loan, would Rabbi Shmuel say that the Arev is responsible at that point or not? Maybe that's totally, he's just saying it, obviously, so that the guy stops choking him. Tashma, come in here. Rabbi Shmuel argued even by a chokehold case. And therefore, by a chokehold case, if in order to get the guy to stop choking his borrower, if the Arev committed that he's going to pay the loan, he still has to pay it. Halacha kamaisay and halacha kamaisay would be paskin like Rabbi Shmuel or not? Tashma, also Rav and Rabbi Yochanan call Rabbi Shmuel apachonik. Halacha kamaisay apachonik. We would paskin like Rabbi Shmuel even by chonik, by the case of the chokehold. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel chonik. The So here, Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel sets it straight that if it's a case of a choke and you're trying to stop the lender from choking the borrower, the only way you're obligated to pay if you made a kinyan with the lender, the kind of kinyan that you do when you sell your chametz. So then you're totally committed, and then you're responsible. Michlal da'ar ba'ama, but a regular guarantor, when there is no violent situation there. You don't, in order to be held liable, you don't need a kinyan. The fact that you verbally say that you're the responsible one, you're the guarantor, that's fine. You're responsible. You have to pay. You have to follow through. Or Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman, Shmuel argued against Rav Nachman because Rav Nachman said, here's that last daf kufay involved on the base, or of the bezdin. Who delay by a kinyan? If you guarantee, you say in front of the court, I am the guarantor, then you don't have to do a kinyan to make it true. You have to. You're still responsible. But if you do it on the street, by a kinyan, in order for you to be responsible as a guarantor, you have to do some sort of kinyan to show that you're really serious about what you said. The Hilchos and the Gemara concludes: Arev, a regular Arev. Before the loan happens, if you say, lend him the money and I'll pay it, and I'm the guarantor, then you don't have to make a kinyan. The fact that you said something like that, that makes you're obligated for that guarantee. But if the loan transaction happened, in order for you to be a guarantor, boy a kinyan, you'd have to make a kinyan with the lender that you're involved and that you're a guarantor. Just by verbally saying that I'm the guarantor, wouldn't hold you liable. But if you make this commitment in Bezdin, and let's say Bezdin was trying to get the borrower to pay, and you come to the court and say, I'll pay, I'll be responsible. Loy boy a kinyan, you don't have to say a kinyan. The bahi hanod mehemele, because the enjoyment that you see that the court believes you and holds you to be a trustworthy person, gama u'mishabed le, in your heart you're committed on this guarantee, and therefore, even if you didn't make a kinyan, you still have to follow through. Hadrulach gesh pashut v'slicha mesechtem Bava Basra. Hadrulach mesechtem Bava Basra slika lo snashim lo mesechtem Bava Basra lo snashim lo b'almadein lo b'alma the. Okay, everyone.
Shkoyach, Mazel
Shkoyach,
Tov.
Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov, everybody.
Mazel
Tov, Mazel Tov.
And have a good drink, a nice bottle of wine, and you're all amazing that you're able to stay through this. And Mitzvah Shem, onward and upwards.
Tomorrow.
Start Sanhedrin. Another page.
Shkoyach. Thank you. We should continue. Thank you.
If somebody goes to shul, should say a Kaddish. You can say a Kaddish, the Rabbanan, whoever does it. I have parents, so I don't. But if someone does it, you can say a Kaddish for behalf of the group.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Have a great evening.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Good enough, Shkoyach.